Did you know LinkedIn has games? This is a funny inside joke between me and my friends. And that's simply because I love LinkedIn and I love gaming. But isn't that interesting? The world's largest professional network, filled with people exchanging opportunities, sharing their achievements, and connecting for job opportunities, for some reason has video games. Well, mini games. And what's interesting is you can look at other people's statistics, people playing, leaderboards, and so on. But why is that? What's special about gaming? Well, their reasoning is as simple as once you've played with people, you connect better at the workplace. But for today, I want to draw your attention to one specific aspect of the reasoning, which is it's a series of thinking-oriented games. You see, the entertainment world is quite diverse. From movies, books, to music, they all have a good side and a bad side. Some of them are helping you follow a storyline, some of them help you think about things, and others maybe not so fruitful for your daily life. For today, let's focus on those games that are contributing positively to everyone's life. Now, have a look at this image. There are a couple of things very important from this image, and it's meant to capture the emotion of gaming by Phil Toldano. The crinkles around the mouth and the eyes as well show a little bit of optimism, and the raised eyebrows are surprise. What's interesting is this is what we call in our gaming terms an epic win, or more recently, a GG. Now, this is not just any image. This is the image that was presented by Dr. Jane McGonigal in her TED Talk, where gaming saves and creates a better world. She spoke of 4 different skills, and relating to that image, she mentioned that this is the face we need on problem solvers across the world. Firstly, we have blissful productivity. Gamers are so interested in the obstacle they're solving that it's almost like working a second-day job, just because it's worth it in the end in terms of the positive reward. Secondly, we have social fabric. Gamers find it easier to connect with other people once they've played a game or two, and they get a tightly knit circle of friends. Next is urgent optimism. Once faced with an obstacle, there is an urgent need to try to solve it as soon as possible, and they have all the thought in the world that they will be able to solve it. And lastly is epic meaning. Once you've covered all of this, you will see that gamers associate very well with other characters they've played, and this is evident from the countless number of hours online of gaming content you'll find. So, we see that this is being adopted. We see that there is skills available on the line. But how do we know it's working? How do we know that this is not something that's just being said on stage? Well, there is another element from Dr. Jane's talk. She spoke about the Greek historian, somewhere around 400 to 500 BC, called Herodotus. Herodotus had a theory. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom called Lydia, which is present-day Turkey. You see, Lydia at that time was faced with a problem, a famine, and they needed to solve in terms of how many resources they're using. So they came up with a plan. The kingdom decided on one day they would play games, specifically dice games, and the next day they would eat. They will count on the fact that blissful productivity will prevent them from fighting amongst each other for scarce resources. So one day they played, and one day they ate. This continued on for 18 years. Despite that, the famine was not resolved. So the kingdom decided, let's do one more final game. They split the kingdom in half, and they decided they will play one last game, the winner of which will get to go out of Lydia in search of better civilization. What's interesting here is scientists now found that the Etruscans, which led on to become the Roman Empire, do share the same DNA as Lydians. And geologists now find that at that time there was a global cooling, which would have explained the famine occurring. So Herodotus' wild theory that gaming saved the culture of Lydia might actually be true. So another point to remember and think about, this TED Talk from Dr. Jane was about 14 years ago. And the story I'm telling you now is from BC. So the question stands, how much has gaming changed since then? Where is gaming today? To explain this, I could look at many, many different examples. There are countless games out there today. But let's look at one specific example that's very relevant to the audience today, and personally one of my favorites. Assassin's Creed Mirage by Ubisoft. Assassin's Creed Mirage is set in ancient Baghdad, and it's known for being set around 900 CE. This is also known to be set in the golden age of Islam. The historians among you might know that this is also during the Abbasid Caliphate. Important also to think about is how much detail that goes into gaming. To start off, I'll kick you off with the logo you see on the screen right now. That is the Assassin's Creed logo. If you were to cut the A in half and rotate it, this is what it would look like. Again, the keen-eyed among you might note that this is Arabic calligraphy. This spells out Al-Makhfi, which is the hidden one, an important theme to the game. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Baghdad during the golden age of Islam. Now, what you see here is not just a painting. This is a scene from the game, and the entire city is explorable. You can look at vegetation, you can speak to people around it, you can look at Islamic architecture. Let's take a closer look. What you see here is the Madinat as-Salam, or the City of Peace. This was the throne of the Caliphate at that time. Again, you can see Islamic architecture, explain vegetation, and look at so many different aspects of what civilization would have looked at like at that time. Let's look at a residential building. What you see here is plates, artisan work, books, so much packed into this scene. All of this is explorable, and you can even have a look at some of the messages on the table spread out. Now, one thing I would like to highlight is one of my favorites, the industrial city of Harbiya. This was a city where many of the poor community lived along. There was lots of fighting, resources, a workers' area, essentially. What is interesting for me here is the different colors you see on the ground are cloth dyes. This is how cloth dyeing used to take place at that time, and when you're doing your playthrough of the game, you can see how and the process of workers doing the cloth dyeing itself. One last aerial view of the city, and what you see here is a mosque in the distance. When you are playing the game and there is the call to prayer, the adhan, all other sounds stop in respect of that. In fact, you can even mute all sound when the time of day changes to the call for prayer. Now, that's a lot of detail packed into a game. There is so much happening. And when you have detail like that, it does not go unnoticed. What you see now is a screenshot where you can buy tickets to have an exhibition. This is from the Institut du Monde Arabe, or the Arab World Institute, located in Paris. They held an exhibition in collaboration with Ubisoft, explaining and allowing you to explore how civilization was at that time. Now, that's a lot to digest. Let's look at two main things you should remember. One, gaming like this gives you a deep understanding of history. What was civilization like at that time? What were things happening? And what were the outcomes of society? Secondly, the intense research that goes behind creating that immersion. I'll get back to more on the research, but one important point just for a fact. When the Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire in 2019, Ubisoft pledged a certain amount to rebuild the cathedral, and they gave out another installment of this game series called Unity for free. Their reasoning? Unity used a detailed enhancement and research around the cathedral itself. To help rebuild the cathedral, they offered the game so you can have a rough outline of what now the cathedral would look like. So, gaming helped build skills. It might have proven itself in the past, and now we have a certain stage where it is having a lot of understanding for history. But where do we go from here? What does this have to do with anything? How does the past shape our future? This can be summed through a small quote from one of the most prominent figures in gaming. His name is Sid Meier, and he's known for his Civilization series. He has a quote from his book and autobiography called A Life in Computer Games. He mentioned, each game taught him something, whether that was pain or that was gratification. And that forged a way of what came after it. From this, you can dissect it and have three main takeaways. Firstly, past calamities, understanding where we're coming from. There are many games that demonstrate that. And you can look at how society was at that time and what were the outcomes to society. A good example of this is Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 allows you to play in the life of some of the soldiers during World War I and really see what kind of atrocities were present at that time. Similar to how you can learn from past calamities, you can learn from humanity's greatest triumphs. A good example of that is the game series Civilization. Civilization 6 allows you to explore some of history's prominent figures, whether that's Teddy Roosevelt, Cleopatra, or Mahatma Gandhi. Once you've understood the past of what we've done right and what we've done wrong, you can then prepare yourself as gamers to solve today's problems. Another example for this is Dr. Jane's very own Evoke, which brought together a community of problem solvers and asked you to solve a simulated world challenge. This was a game that was also certified by the World Bank Institute, for whoever does a successful playthrough of the game would get certified. Now, the important thing about gaming is it's not just for a specific niche of people. It's for everyone. And when you have something like that, it brings together a community to help solve the world's problems. Don't believe me? Here is a QR code on your screen. I urge you all to scan this, and it will take you to several things proving my point. Firstly, what you will see is a detailed video of Assassin's Creed Mirage. What was the research that went behind making the game? Speaking to professors, speaking to industry professionals, and studying Islamic architecture that has lasted from the golden age of Islam. Secondly, a research paper from the International Journal of Research. That will show you that there is scientists studying the fact that gaming is proving to be skilled and it's helping solve how future is coming. And lastly, is something called the Everest simulation. The Everest simulation is a simulation by Harvard. It's taught in master's programs across the world. It brings together a group of 5 or 6 people having different roles attempting to climb Everest. It explores team dynamics, leadership, and much, much more. In fact, I did this simulation myself a couple of weeks ago, so I can speak that from experience. So, you can see that overall gaming is able to take forward where we are today, and it's able to cover a lot more in terms of skills development. Remember also that now, while you have seen what kind of skills gaming can develop, next time you're faced with a world problem, think about giving it to a gamer, and think about how they might be on a stage like this one day, talking about how gaming helps solve a world problem. Thank you.